Well, good morning. It is Saturday. It's early. It's 8:30 maybe. So remember the other day I said, Thursday actually, 4th of July, I said that I washed the truck because I wanted to make sure it was going to rain. It did. So that's good. We needed some rain. It was blazing hot yesterday. At one point, I saw on the weather.com app while I was at work, which is, 25 minutes, I don't know, maybe that away, 101 with a heat index of 115. Yeah. I'm too old for that crap. Not supposed to be as hot today, but it's supposed to rain. So we're out here early so we can try and get some stuff done. What are we going to try and get done? We need to get the block for the 70, which is the one over there. Need to get it cleaned up a little bit more, clean up the deck and do some stuff like that. And why is that? Well, the crankshaft showed up yesterday. Rock Auto said it would be Monday. FedEx said, hold my beer. And it got here yesterday. So that's good. So I'd like to get the crank dropped in it today, but I need to make sure the thing is fully cleaned up. Like, I got to get the deck surfaces cleaned up and like some of the gasket mating surfaces because they got a little paint on them when I painted it. But other than that, I think it's about ready. So we'll get the crank over here. We wiped off our little table over here so we can bring the crank over and open it up and take a look at it and make sure that the box doesn't look beat up. So I don't think FedEx abused it too badly in transit. We need to get rolling before it gets hot. See you in a bit. All right, let's uncover this thing. There she is. All right, make sure things haven't gotten too rusty. Set that up there. All right. Everything looks all right. Well, as you can see, there's a little paint on here. Got a little crud in that cylinder. Must have fell out of the water jacket when I tipped it upside down. Maybe we need to flip it upside down again. I need to wipe these down a little bit. Wipe down the deck surfaces. Wipe this off. I guess we'll spray a little WD-40 on there because it's getting a little surface rust on it. Make sure the bearing saddles all are clean and smooth. We'll wipe the bores out before we put the crank in, just to make sure. And then we'll get the crank set in here. All right, let's get busy. All right, let's see if this will just, how easy this is going to wipe off of here. It's exciting television, isn't it? And that's the only can of carb cleaner I've got. So that's why we're not hosing it down. Plus, that paint hasn't, it's probably not cured because it hasn't had any heat cycles. I don't want it to come off and make it, on the sides of the block, I don't want it to come off and make it look terrible again. So we'll just spray some on a rag. I know in a perfect world, I'd have this thing, have them at least true up the deck, make sure that it's, the surface is, clean enough for the head gasket to hold, especially since I'm using aluminum heads. But, we're trying to do this, well, it's hard to say we're trying to do it cheap when I bought a set of freaking AFR heads for it. But other than the AFR heads, I am trying to do this cheap. So what we'll probably do is sorry, got distracted. Deck surfaces are clean. Intake china walls are clean. All right, let's flip her over this way. We'll clean up the pan rails. We'll get the main caps off, make sure they're cleaned up. Make sure the bolt holes are all clean. And those bearing saddles were dirtier than I'd remembered them being. I've got them cleaned up pretty good right now. Yeah, I know they're not spotless. The cam bearings, I had to clean those up just a little bit more. They're the factory cam bearings, and they still looked pretty good, but that cam had sat in there for 20 years and never turned, so it had some, I don't know if it was varnish or just oil that had dried, and it was tough to get off of there. But I know it would have been bad if I didn't, so it's just hard for me to get my hand down in here to get to that with a rag. But we got it cleaned up, so I guess we'll go over and grab the crankshaft. All right, got sidetracked. I realized when I shined the phone down in there, the lifter bores looked like crap. Oh, I need to clean that one a little more. So, been cutting up my knuckles, trying to reach down in there and get them things wiped out a little bit. We're going to need to go to town before we get too carried away here and buy another couple cans of brake clean and some WD-40. Yeah, that's crap off of my hand that was on there. I don't have to wipe those back out again. Once again, that's crap that came off of my hand when I was trying to dig down in there and wipe them boards out from the bottom. Alright, there it is. I sure hope it's the right one. Alright, so the box isn't all beat up. There's a little hole here where the crank wore through, but it's just a counterweight, so that'll be alright. Alright, let's get a box cutter and cut these straps off. Alright, the moment of truth. It looks pretty. Oh, let's see. Mains are 20 under. It's not to say what the rods are. Ooh, that rod bearing box is made all to hell. It'll be alright. Oh yeah, it's just the end of the box that got mashed, and hell, the bearings are clear down in there. Alright. What's it say on here? Still can't see it. 20. She's 20 under. That's alright. We'll be fine. Main bearings made in Mexico. Rod bearings made in Israel. I got a pretty good idea which ones of those are better than the others. They'll all work fine for this. Alright, instructions. Please read before installing. Full warranty is provided against workmanship and original equipment before. No labor is implied or intended. Crankshaft return the responsibility, blah blah blah. Clean all parts and lubricate all moving parts during installation. Really? Oh, don't put it all together dry. Inspect main bearing saddles and connecting rods for size and out of round condition. If necessary, have block a line board. Yeah, we're not doing any of that. Torque all bolts to manufacturer specs. We will do that. When installing pistons, be sure to use rod bolt boot to cover rod bolts and correct crankshaft. No, we're not doing that either. We've done this a few times before. We know what we're doing. Use bolt boots to cover connecting rods. No, once again, we're not doing that. Dirt, clean all parts and keep clean. We'll keep it as clean as we can, being out here where we lost the shop. Out around connecting rods. Have all connecting rods checked. I think they're fine. Bearings on them looked fine. They just looked like they were 150,000 plus mile bearings. Connecting rods must fit the bearings to give proper crush. Rod and main caps on backwards or mixed. Now, we've done that a few times ourselves. This isn't our first rodeo putting one together, so we'll be all right. Engine Tech, the engine builder's source. I've never even heard of them before. Move them out of here where they're not going to get ripped on because we got rain last night. Now let's get this heavy bastard out of here. Alright, so here's where the box had wore through. It's on here. Yeah, that's fine. That's just on the... Alright. I guess we need to get the main caps cleaned up. I need a key with. Didn't come with a key. That's alright. I got the one out of the other crank. Oil journals. They put a little chamfer on them. Not as much as I'd like to have seen, but they did put a little on there, so that's better than nothing. Alright, let's clean up the main caps. Okay, so I think the block is probably about as clean as I'm going to get it. I mean, it looks alright. I mean, is it as spotless if it had gone through a parts washer? Hell no. Is it decent? Yep, I think it's good enough. I got the main caps all cleaned up. Once again, not as spotless as if they'd went through a parts washer, but I mean, they're all right. I mean, I got the journal surfaces cleaned up and the mating surface cleaned up. So I think that's all good. I think before we unpackage the crank, before we completely unwrap this thing and clean it all off, I need to run to town, buy a couple cans of WD-40 because, well, I'm about out. And probably 3 or 4 cans of carb cleaner and a couple cans of brake clean, and you know, yeah, that's about empty. And this one started spitting the last time, so before we get any more involved in this, we probably need to go get $50 worth of solvents. Let's see, let's move these back from the edge. I can't get a hold of them. That'll work. Move this back. And we need to get the crank key. We can wait on that. I found another can of carb cleaner, so we're not going to town. We're going to get that thing out, clean it up. We've got the bearings in the block, the bearings in the main caps. We're going to get the crank set in, get the caps on, and then we'll go to town. I just want to make some sort of progress, and so I can say, yay, look at this. Got a little assembly lube, a new rear main seal in it. We'll put a little assembly lube on here, then we'll get the crank set in. We'll get the, you might not be able to hear me, I don't have the mic on. But then we'll get the crank set in, we'll get the main caps on. We'll just run them down, we won't torque anything yet. Then we'll worry about going to town and getting some stuff. Like I said, I just want to make a little progress. All right, crank is cleaned up. get the others on here, then we'll worry about number 2. Make sure the arrows go forward. All right, the crank's in. Here. Crank's in. I still need to torque it, as you saw, but nothing seems weird. I mean, that's just really heavy assembly lube, so it makes it turn a little tough. But I'm all right with it. It's pretty normal for... All right, cool. That's called progress. All right, so we're torquing them in 3 steps. We've already done the first 2 steps. We put a little 30 weight oil on the threads, just a little on the threads, and just a touch under the mating surface right here. Final torque is 105. We went 50 and 75. Now we're set at 105. This one ready? Nope. All right, and it still moves just as easy as it did when the caps were just snugged down. All right, now we can go to town and buy some WD-40. Back this off. And look at that, we're putting a motor together from a 70. You know the last time that happened? In a long time. I don't even remember. All right, so we're back to wrap this up. I've already showered, we've already been out to eat, had supper. There's thunder off in the distance. So I got the crank in. Get this thing uncovered so you can see. All right, so the crank is in. I got 2 rods put in. I'm already sweating, and like I said, I already showered. I'm sweating like a pig already. I've already showered. So we're gonna wrap this up. That'll be it for now. Thanks for watching.